All right, let's make some NWSL final regular season match day picks. We've got games taking place all the way from Friday through Sunday. Let's start with what we believe is going to be the biggest match of the weekend to keep an eye on. It's going to be San Diego Wave FC versus North Carolina Courage. Of course, you can find all the action on Paramount Plus. It's going to be a late one. That one's kicking off at 10 p.m. Eastern. Lisa, we chatted a ton already about what's at stake, what's on the line for all of these teams, upper half teams, and teams on the hunt. But when it comes to this game, when you're looking at these two going head to head, do you have a winner? Do you have a loser? What are you feeling about it?
This game is the biggest of the weekend, and it comes on Friday night. It's every eye in the NWSL, not in the NWSL, is going to be turned to this late night game. Just comes down to everything that's on the line with it. San Diego can clinch the number 2 seed with a win, and then a few other things to happen, but they need to get the win. North Carolina, they just need a win and they clinch the playoffs. So it comes down to that. I think a little bit more pressure on North Carolina because they are on the outside looking in, whereas San Diego, they've already clinched. I know that they want to win the Shield. That's a little bit out of touch right now, and just in terms of destinies that they can control. They can't control that at this point. They just need to get a win, and then a few other things need to happen. And for Casey Stoney's side, that's been dealing with a bit of injuries, players with getting some knocks here and there. Yeah. Do you look ahead to the postseason already? Do you rest some players in this one and say, you know what? We're already in the playoffs. Do I need Alex Morgan getting more injured, especially as she potentially heads into a U.S. national team camp call-up, everything that is to come in the future for Alex Morgan? Now, these players want to play. They want to compete. They want to get out there, and they want to freaking win and tear their opponent's head off. So I don't foresee that happening with Casey Stoney's side. I think she also wants to win outright this game and crush North Carolina. But North Carolina has so much more on the line. Casey Murphy coming off of back-to-back shutouts for North Carolina. Dabinia coming off of a stellar month of September, scoring goals all over the place. I don't think that a player like Dabinia is even looking at the Golden Boot race, and I wouldn't either if I were her. But the way that North Carolina has been playing, the fact that North Carolina is on the outside looking in, the fact that this game is at Snapdragon perhaps gives the upper hand to San Diego, because a sold-out crowd at Snapdragon is incredibly intimidating. But North Carolina can manage that. They started their season on the West Coast against Angel City. They're going to end it on the West Coast against San Diego, and North Carolina is going to get the win.
I love it. I love it. Leaning into it, the confidence, the energy, going with North Carolina in this one. Lisa, listen, I don't blame you. I was going back and forth between this game in particular because it is the biggest match of the weekend. This game is quite frankly going to dictate some things throughout the remainder of the two match days on Saturday and Sunday. Whatever happens in between San Diego and North Carolina on Friday could make Chicago and Los Angeles completely irrelevant on Sunday. If your pick comes to fruition, if North Carolina go ahead and win and defeat San Diego, it's going to end the regular season early, quite frankly, for some other team, for Chicago and Los Angeles on Sunday. So I think if you got an eye on Sunday, you've got an eye on Friday. And I hear all the arguments for going with North Carolina over San Diego. I think they're strong ones. They're ones that I have for North Carolina as well. I do wonder if San Diego is the more streaky team at this moment compared to North Carolina, not just in overall record. You know, you're talking about going up against the North Carolina side that is, you know, they've won 5 of their last 6 games. Okay, they're one of the hottest teams in the league right now. They have absolutely bullied their way into the upper half of the table, and Dabinia is the one to have helped gotten them there. Like, just saying, like, come on, let's go with these very strong individual performances here. But I do wonder, with some of the playoff energy that we've been seeing over the last few weeks that this one actually perhaps has the makings of a draw. I love that you brought up North Carolina Courage opening their season on the West Coast and ending their season on the West Coast. They thrived in that environment. They ended up losing that game against Angel City, but they were not intimidated by the crowd.
No.
We saw a number of players actually thanking Angel City fans for that type of environment, to be able to play in that type of environment and all of the scenes around them as the opposition. So they're not a team that is intimidated by playing on the road or in front of a big crowd like that. So while I do think that this has, leanings towards North Carolina, I'm rooting for chaos, Lisa, and I want this to be a draw. So I'm going to be going with a draw.
So I like that you're going with a draw, because that just makes the rest of the games after this Friday night matchup that much more interesting and that much more enticing. I'm just going to dig my heels in a little bit harder about why I think North Carolina is going to win, because North Carolina, since joining the NWSL as that relocated team in 2017, has not missed the postseason. They have made the playoffs every single year, and this is a team that has that culture behind them. I think Sean Nahas is a coach that understands what this team is capable of, and we've seen switch up. We've seen a variety of players scoring a plethora of goals. I mean, you talked about their convincing wins over the last couple games. I mean, 3 back-to-back 3-0 wins and shutouts. And that's huge defensively. That gives a team like the Courage so much confidence defensively across that back line, depending on who Nahas is playing in that back line. We've seen a little bit of rotation, whether it's Matthias in there and Pickett getting really good reps. I think she has come such a long way this year, a player that I didn't think could get much better at the end of last season. And Pickett has just continuously made those strides. We're seeing Dabinia just riding out on these goals that she's scoring. Ordonez is picking up pieces where it is. The combinations with Caroline in the midfield, I think Denise O'Sullivan as well. And now I'm just listing players, but this is a team that understands what it takes. They know how to get into the playoffs. They know how to fight for something. They know how to come from behind. They know how to score early. They know how to shut down a game and manage a game incredibly well. And they're going to need all of those skills playing this away game at Snapdragon against San Diego Wave. Now, the last time these two teams played, it was 1-0. San Diego ended up getting the win against that first one in North Carolina, but that was a long time ago, and a lot has changed. San Diego, if they get this draw, I think it'll be a really tight one, but I'm still going with North Carolina in the win.
I feel you. I think we both wanted to pick a winner in this one, but we both also had that mentality, is this going to be a draw? It's the first game of the weekend. Is it going to set some things in motion? And it will. I think that's the one absolute that we have with this game. The one absolute is that the result of this game is going to dictate some things throughout the remainder of the weekend. So we'll see what happens, what manifests itself, if it's a win for the Courage in Lisa's pick or a draw for me, and how that's going to set things up for Saturday.
So final thought on this one for those that are maybe still catching up on the playoff scenarios. If North Carolina wins, Angel City is out.
Full stop.
So it does provide a lot more chaos if this first San Diego North Carolina match ends in a draw. Also Chicago, they need a North Carolina loss in order to get secure their spot in there. Then it becomes a bunch of other factors. But if North Carolina wins, Angel City is out. So it comes down to that match completely.
We'll see. How this match sets the scene for things over Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, we've got a quadruple header of games. Let's go through some of these picks. Unlike San Diego and North Carolina Courage, this first match is not between two upper half table teams. It's Gotham FC taking on Portland Thorns FC. That's going to be kicking off at 6 p.m. Eastern. You can catch all the action on Paramount Plus for that match. When you're looking at these two teams, Lisa, who you got in this one and why?
I've got Portland. I think they're going to come home, get the Shield, go out against Gotham, get the wins, clinch that number 1 seed as Portland does so well, score a couple goals. I'm taking the Thorns in this one all the way.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. I think looking at this one, I think folks would love to have the ultimate chaos scenario in which Gotham go ahead and break that massive losing streak that they've been on. I believe they're at like 13 games now or so. I could have the math wrong on that one. There's been a lot of math over the last few weeks. But that's the ultimate chaos scenario, right? That they come in here and they play spoiler themselves. I just don't know if that's what's going to happen between these two teams. We heard from Coach Wilkinson, saying that Sophia Smith is being evaluated. Took a couple knocks during that previous NWSL game. They're primarily observing her for concussion protocols, and again, of course, to go ahead and contribute to our chaos scenarios. We like to do these in the morning, well in advance before we get. Availability reports and stuff like that. So in the event that somebody like Sophia Smith is available or even unavailable for this game, I just believe that the Thorns have a bit more going for them in this game. I think the Thorns have one of the deepest, if not the deepest bench in the league, and it is going to prove crucial down the stretch of a playoff postseason run. Even in the event that Smith isn't available, you've got players like Yasmin Ryan, Morgan Weaver, you've got the veteran in Christine Sinclair making a lot of noise. And so I think the Thorns have the opportunity to take the Shield and first place in this match. So you and I are both going Thorns. So I can't wait to see if we're correct or incorrect on the recap for this one. Let's take a look at Washington Spirit versus Houston Dash. This game kicking off at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can catch all the action on Paramount Plus. You got a winner in this one, Lisa?
So Washington Spirit, Houston Dash, I think it comes down to a little bit of personnel for Houston. We saw them play last week and they were without Ebony Salmon and they looked a little lackluster, I'm going to be honest. And I think with this Houston side, they are a team that can go out there and dominate. We saw them do it this year against a team like Washington that is eliminated from the playoff situation as reigning NWSL champions. They might be willing to cause a little bit of chaos. I'm expecting them to come out and try to do something crazy against Houston in terms of like, how can they screw them up? How can they throw off anything that's happening there? But ultimately, I think Houston's going to travel to DC and get the win over Washington. Just kind of close out the season on a win on a high note, get some playoff push for them, because if Houston wins or draws over Washington, they clinch. I don't think it'll be that easy against a Spirit side with Aubrey Bledsoe in goal. I think Washington is this team that thinks they have a lot to prove to the world after being a team that won last year and now going through a bit of a coaching change. And now here they are on this other side of it. Can they end the year on a win and on a high? Because this is the end for Washington Spirit. But Houston, they need a win or a draw to get in. And I think they're going to come out and win, score some goals over Washington for sure.
Okay, so you're going
I'm going Houston. I'm going Houston.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go opposite. I'm going to go Spirit in this one. I'm rooting for full chaos in this one, but I also do believe that the Spirit could get a result against the Dash, quite frankly. I think when we're talking about teams kind of looking in front of them and sort of seeing the potential for a postseason position and the form in which they're heading into those playoffs, I would include Houston Dash as one of those teams that have finding themselves a little bit streaky heading into the postseason. So, talked about that with San Diego Wave. I would include the Current in that as well, and Houston in terms of teams that have a peculiar kind of look to their results going into the postseason. So you're talking for Houston, loss, win, draw, loss, win. That's you're kind of struggling, maybe plateauing perhaps at a time that you don't want to be plateauing at. And the last time these two teams faced off against each other, they played to a 2-2 draw. So I think there's potential for all of these games to have a bit of chaos within them. But I do think this one, especially because again, what happens on Friday might dictate some things moving forward for the remainder of these games moving forward. But in particular, I'm kind of circling this Houston Dash and Washington Spirit game as well. I think a lot of people are maybe circling Sunday's game against Chicago and Angel
Yeah.
City as the game to be most impacted. But if in the event that there's a particular result against San Diego and North Carolina Courage, the Houston Dash are going to be put on a little bit of the hot seat as well. Like maybe the pressure might be on a little bit, and they'll know by late Friday night. And I think looking ahead a little bit with something like a United States women's national team window that's coming up. We're gonna get that roster a little bit later today and see that if somebody like an Ashley Sanchez or Trinity Rodman or Aubrey Bledsoe, right, happen to find themselves named to those rosters as they have been named for months now, I would imagine that they want to have a very good club match before they make their departure to go up against a team like England. So I'm looking for strong games for those players, especially somebody like an Ashley Hatch. And I fully expect this game to be a little bit chaotic, and I'm going to be going with the Spirit in this one.
Love it.
Let's take a look at the next one. Racing Louisville versus Kansas City. Current Kansas City, one of the teams with potential for the Shield or a first or second place finish. This one is going to be kicking off at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you catch all the action in this one. Lisa, do you have a winner in this one?
I do. I have Kansas City getting the win in this one. I think Louisville, despite coming off of a big time win over Angel City last weekend, scoring a lot of goals, really bringing their game and imposing it on Angel City in that match. Kansas City is a side that I've just been so impressed with. Like, I really love watching this Kansas City side, whether it's the individual play of someone like Kaiser, Labonta, even Haley Mace has done tremendously. The defensive efforts of AD French this year and the back line with a bit of rotation, having some rookies come in there, players get hurt. Edmonds and Ball being rotated around in different roles. Kansas City is a team that's really impressed me in every asset of this game and every ability on the pitch and what they've been able to do, scoring in a variety of ways. And against a Racing Louisville side, I think Kansas City is a team that can really come out and win, get a big win over Racing Louisville, despite being at Lynn Family Stadium in Louisville. Kansas City needs this win. They've already clinched, but this is a side, I mean, even just hearing these players talk and like their post-game media availability and understanding them in terms of the mindset that this team has and what they're building in Kansas City is go out and win and crush your opponents. Because if KC wins, Portland loses, OL Reign draws and or loses, Kansas City gets the Shield. And if this Kansas City side somehow gets the Shield in this regular season, I think they may like set off fireworks every day in like the best way. I mean that in the best way possible. They're just so jazzed about the great things that they're doing there, and that energy really feeds and really goes. So it'll be a bit of a struggle for them, I think, going on the road, but I still see Kansas City getting the win over Louisville. What about you, Sandra?
Listen, we saw it in person. We got to see Racing Louisville and a disappointing loss to Angel City. 3-1 on the road. They're back at home to sort of close out their regular season. I would imagine that they want to close out their season, making a strong case for next year. I'm sure the coaching staff wants to pick up another win to make sure that they have a strong case heading into next season, to believe in their system, and sort of iron things out and prep themselves, right? But Kansas City has things on the line, and I like the storyline around this current team. We're talking about a complete different scenario from last year. This was a team that finished in last place last year, but absolutely played spoiler down the stretch. You're talking about a team that kind of put the league on notice a little bit, with their performances down the end of the second half of the season, saying, hey, just wait. And we did. And here we are in 2022. They've clinched a spot in the 2022 postseason. Talk about a massive turnaround for this franchise, from last to a top 4 team. And they have the potential to go to first place, quite frankly. So it's a very excited time, I think, to be, a part of that Kansas City squad and to sort of watch this franchise. And I would imagine with some pretty big things on the line, they want to go and get the job done. I'm sure they want to have that for themselves as a team, as a unit. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a certain sense of urgency for this Kansas City current team, and Matt Potter and what he's done with this franchise as well. So I'm going with the current in this one to pick up the win, and we'll see if they end up getting the 1 or 2 seed and or the Shield. Let's talk about this last game to close out Saturday night action. We've got OL versus Orlando Pride at 10 p.m. Eastern, a late night one to close things out on Saturday. Lisa, do you have a winner between Reign and the Pride?
This game is actually a big one for me. I love these two sides in terms of how they play against each other. The last time these two teams went out and played, it was at Exploria. OL Reign ends up winning 2-1, but Orlando scored first. It was like a stoppage time goal for Megan Rapinoe at the end of it, which of course it was. That was when Megan Rapinoe was on a roll with goals, assists, and stoppage time goals. But I think OL Reign is going to win this one. It's at Lumen Field. Orlando, I'm praying for everyone in the Florida area with all the hurricanes that are happening. And Orlando was there. They had to get out of the storm and get to Seattle, get out of Hurricane Ian that was there and get away. So that factor on top of it, it's a mental factor for sure. It's a little bit of an emotional factor for this Orlando side. And meanwhile, OL Reign, they're a team that it can go out and destroy a team like Orlando. And honestly, especially because the last time they played, Reign controlled so much of the game and Orlando ends up scoring first. And then it was like a switch was turned and OL Reign just continued to dominate. I mean, Orlando's coming off of a 2-2 draw, which gives them a bit of confidence and everything. But with OL Reign, they're coming off of 3 wins in a row. They're undefeated in several. I mean, it's the end of the season. Laura Harvey wants that freaking shield. That's all she wants.
Does it give Orlando like motivation though? I mean, they dropped that. They dropped that.
I know.
They had a 2-goal lead and they dropped it. I don't know. Maybe that motivates them in a way where they're like pissed off about it. You know,
I mean, they've been doing that all year though. They've been doing it all year though. Dropping.
So I'm curious if like, you know, Orlando's ability to kind of give up a lead or kind of concede those types of goals, what we're going to see between these two games. I'm with you though.
If OL Reign scores first, it's game over. It'll be like 3-0. If Orlando gets goals first, I'm in for it because then it comes. I mean, we've seen Orlando drop games before where they've been up. We've also seen them come back, but they haven't done that in a while. I give this one to OL Reign.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, look, the Pride heading into that match against San Diego, they were on a 4-game losing streak, you know, and they almost made it a 5-game losing streak because they allowed San Diego to play themselves back into that game and ended up settling for a 2-2 draw. Look, I'm with you. I'm going OL Reign on this one as well. I'm high on OL Reign. I had them as my pick to win the whole thing this year. So I would love for them to continue on their very equally impressive streak during this second half of the season. They are also undefeated in their last 6 games, winners of their last 3. So I'm looking for OL Reign to continue that form against a team like Orlando Pride. You want to give yourself the best possible opportunities going into the postseason. And this is a very experienced team with an experienced coach who understands the value of that. So I expect the Reign to come out here and win this final match day against Orlando Pride. And then for Sunday, one headliner only, October 2nd. It's going to be Chicago Red Stars hosting Angel City at 6 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you catch all the action on Paramount Plus. I don't know, Lisa. A lot of things will happen before this game kicks off. Who do you got and why?
I like don't even want to make a pick until after tomorrow night's match between San Diego and North Carolina because frankly, it doesn't matter at the end of it, but
that's true. It won't matter from Friday.
Between Angel City and Chicago, I see this being a draw. Honestly, the way it kind of plays out with these sides, I think that despite them both needing wins over their teams, let's say San Diego, North Carolina ends in a draw. So the chaos is everywhere. Chaos ensues. And now we have Chicago and Angel City. Chicago needs a win over
Yeah.
Angel City, and as does Angel City, plus a little bit of goals. They need some goals.
Goodness.
I was just last weekend watching Angel City against Racing Louisville. Lucky enough for us in person at Bank of California Stadium, I wasn't that convinced with what Angel City can do. And if this is a team that's now traveling to Chicago when they don't have the crowd of 20,000 plus at the bank behind them, cheering them on, and the fanfare of it all, and all the fireworks that come with playing at home, I don't think they can stand a chance against Chicago. Despite Chicago being very shaky right now, this is a team that's getting back some of their players that we've seen Aaron Wright, Morgan Gautreau get more and more minutes consistently. It's the right time for Chicago to get these players back, for Mallory Pugh to continue to take games in her hands and just run with them. If it's not a draw, I'm giving it to Chicago, but I think that despite how Friday plays out, it'll really change the mindset of these teams going into their Sunday match. I'll give it to Chicago. I'm going to give it to Chicago. A Chicago win.
Listen, I'm with you. I think Friday again is going to dictate a lot of things for matches across the weekend, but in particular this match on Sunday. Chicago Red Stars, again, another one of those teams that I would lump in with former upper half table teams, who are kind of looking a little bit streaky, maybe kind of plateauing a little bit, kind of looking into this final match weekend and looking ahead to a potential place in the postseason. They've lost their last two matches. Winners before undefeated in 3 before, that 2-game skid that they're currently on. So I think having a player like Mal Pugh, who's just been ridiculous right now, X Games mode, right? Like absolutely balling out. I think if you've got a player of that caliber, you've always got a shot. But I think you also have to take a look at what this team is going to be missing into this match week. They're going to be without Bianca St. George's. They are going to be without Zoe Morse. These are 2 players who picked up red cards in this final match against Portland Thorns. And quite frankly, it's unfortunate because the Red Stars in that first half of the game looked to sort of control things in that middle third against the Thorn. Their box to box was giving the central mids for Portland some troubles. I mean, we saw the return of Morgan Gautreau as a starter in that game, and you got to see immediately the type of impact that she can bring to a Red Stars team. But we just saw a complete, what in my opinion was just a complete implosion in the second half and early in the second half. Morgan Weaver went up very early in the 47th minute for the Thorns, and then it just kind of all quickly fell apart from there. So it's going to be interesting to see who's available for the Red Stars.
But I don't think Angel City poses the same threat as a team like Portland does.
No, I'm with you. And you know what, Lisa? It's all for those reasons and the reasons that you just mentioned that I don't have a winner in this one. I'm going with a draw in this one as well. I said I was not going to choose against Chicago in the final half of this season, and I'm not choosing against them. I'm not choosing them to lose. I'm not choosing them to win. But I just think that these 2 teams in their current form, there's not enough there to maybe sort of get that extra win. And I think that it's going to be kind of a clogged up type of match, a bit of a grind. And I think the 2 of these teams are going to end up settling for a draw, and it's going to do neither of them any favors.
Yeah, I like that you're going with it. I want to just give a note to everyone listening in, because you mentioned on the 2 red cards to the Chicago players. Yellow card accumulation stops now, because any player that earns a 5th yellow card at the end of the season, they do not have to sit out of a team's playoff game. So only if a player earns a red card in the regular season finale do they have to sit out. So yellow card accumulation is over at this point. That's a wrap on it. So players don't even have to worry about that anymore, because they don't end up missing out on the postseason if they do that. So this is it for those red card, yellow card accumulation. It's all red cards moving forward if they get them.
All right. Well, we'll see how it all shakes out in the final match weekend of the regular season for NWSL.